In this case, when the moms come in, they're typically at a place in their life where they're very vulnerable
Mhm.
and they've realized whatever I'm doing is not working. I'm going to need some help.
Yeah.
And they may have been in a revolving door situation where they're just getting a check here and there to help moving from one place to
The
another.
culture of poverty is a
Yes.
sociological term.
Yes. And it's much more than money.
Mhm.
It's relationships, it's knowledge. Um, Poverty is just layers of um, spaces in our life that have much more to do with our person than they do our finances.
Hey, my name is Jessica McCoy, and I'm here with Raising Midland, a podcast for parents in the Permian. Today, I have Mrs. Diane Cole Wigum from Midland Fair Havens. And some of you guys probably know around Christmas, Midland Fair Havens has an incredible gingerbread making event where you get to decorate gingerbread houses to benefit their organization. I'm really excited for you guys to get to know about that event, but also the organization itself. So help me welcome my friend, Miss Diane. How's it going?
It's great.
Thank
How
you
are
so
you
much. I'm
doing?
doing great. I'm so
Good.
excited to meet you. I know my
Thank you.
in-laws have known you for quite some time, and your kids are about my husband and my brother-in-law's age. So that's so cool. How long have you lived in Midland?
About 30 years.
Wow. So that's wonderful. You raise all your kids here. You have four, right?
Have 4 kids. Yes.
So did you raise all your kids in Midland?
Yes.
That's
For that.
awesome. That
Yes, we
is really
did.
great. What high schools did they go to?
They went to Midland High School.
Okay, cool. That's wonderful. So you really have seen Midland grow from something maybe more of like a small town feel. It still feels like a small town,
Right.
but we've gotten so much bigger in the last couple of
Yes.
years.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
So how did you get involved with the Midland Fair Havens organization?
Well, I'd lived here for a couple of years and someone approached me to see if I might help get the ministry started. I'd had some background in helping ministry start, raising funds in other parts of Texas. So I said, sure, I'll see if I can help you get started. Of course, 30 years later, I'm still there, but I love it. And it has results. And we're constantly growing and changing and gaining new opportunities to minister and serve in this community. So it's kept its fresh aspect, and I've enjoyed being a part of that. But to answer your first question, there was a needs assessment and gaps analysis conducted in the city of Midland. Both city and United Way were involved, and they identified single moms and children as one of the major needs
Wow.
for transitional housing, meaning taking a single mom from a homeless situation to becoming independent, self sufficient, and self governing, and that type of thing. So we're a little set apart from an emergency housing. We're not emergency. That would qualify someone that helps for 90 days. We help for up to 2 years. And we teach life skills, job skills, help them have that opportunity to go to classes such as parenting, budgeting, go to college, and just learn how to make good choices to succeed and be self-governing. So it takes up to 2 years to do that. Average stay is more like 18 months. But by the end of that, they're giving back to the community and
That's
they're
amazing.
able to self-sustain.
Wow. So
So,
personal story. I'm adopted, but my birth mother became homeless because of a domestic violence
I'm so
issue within her
sorry.
home. Well, it's okay. It's just part of my story.
Right,
Not trying to sound crass, but it's a part of my story.
right.
So she actually had to live in a women's shelter I mean, she found out she was pregnant with me, but I also had two older siblings who were 8 and 9. So I have a lot of empathy for single mothers. Because you never know what their story is, right? On
Right.
the surface, you can look at the situation and say, oh, it's a single mother,
Mhm.
I'm not saying I believe in this, but I do know that there is some discourse around like, well, she should have known better or like known something to not be in
Mhm.
this situation, right? But we're not called to look at people like that, right? And from my own
Mhm.
personal experience, there was so many factors that led to her being homeless and living in a women's shelter. She was actually in the Houston women's shelter from the time she found out she was pregnant with me at around 8 weeks to all the way up until my birth. Actually, 1 week before
Wow.
she gave birth to me, and I was, adopted, which
Mhm.
is just me generally saying, because you don't just get adopted the second you're born, but getting
Right.
into the custody of my adopted family. So I have a lot of empathy for that. And I can't
Yeah.
imagine, what that was like having an 8 and a 9-year old being in a women's shelter alone. But then also, she gave birth and then she went back. Luckily, she had family in Kansas to be able to take her in to help her with her recovery. But I know that that's not always the case for people who are coming in who might need housing support and then also just to get back on their feet because we never know why a single mother might be in that situation in the first place.
Mhm.
So when you were talking about your, I would say partners, or what do you guys call your single, like the mothers that you guys serve? Do you call them patrons, or I
Well,
want to make sure I'm using the right language
well,
because
I
that's
appreciate
important.
that. Yes, because it's a space we want to really be respectful of.
Mhm.
And we have actually three parts of the program. So the part where it might have been where your mom might have fit in had she stayed in a transitional housing program, which is really kind of a bridge to go from where she was in an emergency situation to becoming independent and self-sufficient. That when they're living in our apartments, we refer to them as residents.
Okay, makes sense
And
because they're living there,
yes, yes,
residents.
yes. And then another part of the program is our non-residential program.
Wow,
And as I was leaving the office today, someone came by to pick up a check. And an
cool.
example of that is a mom who is okay living where she is, but not quite making it
Hmm.
month to month. And if there's a high medical bill, or she's just lost a job, or
The
some other
juggling
situation,
that
right?
she has to do can be
Hmm.
really difficult.
Exactly. And so if she has an eviction or termination of services, then that's where we can come in to help prevent homelessness. We will help pay that rent or utility bill that month, and then visit with them about what caused this and what can we do to
Hmm.
help you prevent that from happening next month and the month after.
Hmm.
So it's not just a matter of handing a check,
Yes,
it's a matter of enabling um, them to become,
self-sufficient,
yes,
which
and
I think is so important.
so important,
And it's
and
also
is
really important.
missing in so many other
Yes.
programs.
And I think that's really important to Midland too. We were actually just
Very.
talking with the West Texas Food Bank. Libby Stevens was here right before you. We were talking about the
Mm,
perception of helping people versus what actually is, right? And
mhm.
I personally believe, just based off of some of these interviews, but I have a nonprofit background as well, that the majority of organizations, especially in Midland, are not just giving checks
Correct.
because one thing that would not be best practices for nonprofit
Mhm,
management, but
mhm.
also you also have to think of your donors. Like, your donors don't really want that. They want to actually see sustainable change.
Exactly.
And I think with your ministry, which is what I view it, hopefully that's kind of how you view it too. Maybe I'm hoping I'm using the right terminology for you
Yes, you
that
are.
resonates. But for ministry, you don't really want to just give handouts, right? So it sounds like you guys are really thinking of different layers of what can create potential homelessness or struggles within single parenthood. But then
Exactly.
also, you're coming in and you're working with them so that they can benefit in
Mhm.
here
Yes.
too. So
Yes.
how do you do that? How are you, because that's such a finesse type conversation. Like, you
Mhm.
can't just come in and, you know,
Right.
you're doing this, and not
Right.
this. And, you know, there's for sure a bridge that
Yes.
has to be made in order for you to,
Yes.
one, build trust with them,
Mhm.
because no one's going to listen to you if you don't have trust
Mhm.
within that type of relationship. But then
Mhm.
also, you have to be able to meet them where they're at. So tell me how you
Yes.
guys, your team, I'm assuming, work together to kind of think of a comprehensive care plan for them. So how do you go
Mhm.
about doing that?
You have a good concept of what we do. And everyone does have a story. We both have our
Hmm.
stories, and for the most part, others don't know our stories.
Hmm.
In this case, when the moms come in, they're typically at a place in their life where they're very vulnerable,
Hmm.
and they've realized whatever I'm doing is not working. I'm going to need some help.
Yeah.
And they may have been in a revolving door situation where they're just getting a check here and there to help moving from one place to
The
another.
culture of poverty is a
Yes.
sociological term.
Yes. And it's much more than money.
Hmm.
It's relationships, it's knowledge. Um, Poverty is just layers of um, spaces in our life that have much more to do with our person than they do our finances. So we kind of start with, where are you now and where would you like to be? And let's have that conversation. and respect that they're in a place that they're asking for help.
Right.
And that's huge.
Yeah.
That's a very brave, big thing to do. We have a process of application
Mhm.
where we have to vet, some background and such because our community is a safe community
Right.
and you, we respect the ones that we've already committed to when new ones are moving in. And we have children, we have moms, and they're all working hard and in school. And so when we bring new families in, we need to make sure and balance all of that. A good match for them, good match for the existing residents, and that they're ready to work on being more intentional and purposeful with choices and future and hopeful. And we really want to instill that hope from the very start. It's not just you're here in a holding pattern, but we're we're here to walk alongside of you
Mhm.
and help brighten this future alongside of you and equip you to
Mhm.
do this. We can't do this for you.
Right.
We can help give you the tools in your tool belt to help you equip yourself and your family
Mhm.
to reach those goals and those dreams
For
and
sure.
help that come to fruition for you and for your children, for the next
Mhm.
generation. So when people ask about our numbers, I'm like, you can't really count the
Yeah,
numbers because there's that ripple effect of the generations to come.
absolutely.
And we started in a house with 4 bedrooms and my office. That first year, we had
Wow.
4 clients, 4 residents, and soon became evident that that was not
Yeah,
sufficient. And someone donated another house to us and then a duplex. And so we had 7 families,
it's
and I was the only paid staff at the time and enlisted some volunteers from the
amazing.
community that would help as care team members to help walk alongside. We do the group life skills training, and then the care team members would walk alongside to help flesh out what that meant
Right.
and help with the accountability and the training part. And then we realized we really needed a more secure location for layers of reasons. And then the program began to grow into also helping the non residential because families would come who didn't necessarily need to move in,
Yeah,
but needed someone to walk alongside of them for a little bit
so
for
that they didn't
encouragement
regress.
and mentorship. Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
it's
And the
amazing.
financial assistance as well. But we always partner that with the counsel and the advice and the accountability. Um, so it's grown today into a program that this last year we served over 700 families.
That's
It
amazing.
really is. And that's not all financial, it's not all residential, obviously. Um, that is phone calls, prayers,
Right.
guidance,
Mhm.
referrals, um, sitting alongside of somebody and praying with them
That's
and
amazing.
just walking and doing life with them. Um, we all need someone to cheer for us and to believe in us. And sometimes these women come without having been told in years, if ever, that they're worthy and that they have value and that they can make other choices and they have the ability to make a difference in their life and in their children's lives.
It's
Um,
amazing that you like I know Mr. Cole was in like music ministry.
mhm,
Did he inspire you to get into ministry yourself? Because I can imagine when you have children yourself, and then your husband was in ministry, doing
mhm.
music ministry. Did that inspire you to kind of say, people have asked me to do this in this role at Midland Fair Havens. This is how I can give back. Because I can imagine being a mom, like
Mhm,
that would be so hard to like see these other moms really suffer.
mhm,
I mean, I personally, my big story and my testimony truly is talking, really surrounds Second Peter, book 4, 1 through 14, where it's like I believe that suffering engages us more with Christ, and it provides context to our own
mhm.
ministry. So as a mom and like having a husband in ministry, did that really bring you closer to like what your role is? Because I'm sure that that was
Well,
like so inspiring to have that at home too.
we definitely worked together
Uh huh.
in ministry during those years. I was raised on the mission field.
Really?
Yeah,
That's so cool. Were
and
your parents like nationally or internationally?
yes, I moved over when I was 4 and lived in Singapore and
Whoa.
Malaysia. So kind of grew up not knowing any better than our home was open
Wow.
for ministry and
You're truly yoked. That's wonderful.
and then came back to the States at 18 to go to college, but spent many times going back overseas
Mhm.
in ministry opportunities and still do, just love it and still very connected to that. And then just I think the natural byproduct of that is wanting to continue to, at the end of the day, know you've made a difference in
Yeah.
somebody's life and maybe some eternal difference
Mhm.
as much as possible. So in college, I studied social work and counseling and
It's
went through
amazing.
that process as
That's
well.
also so
Just
beneficial too, because like you have, the supportive environment of your home being a ministry as well.
yes.
But then also you can actually understand the science of the culture of poverty
Hmm.
because it's so, I just know from working in nonprofit management for a little bit, very brief time for myself, but
Hmm.
being a CASA advocate.
Oh, wonderful!
Um,
Thank you for doing
yeah,
that.
well, it for me, the reason why I asked that question about was it hard, seeing things as a young mom yourself as, in
Hmm.
executive leadership for this organization. Your kids were a little bit older, but you know, as a cost advocate, I had to put it on pause for a while because when I had kids,
Mm.
I was specifically working with younger kids.
Hmm.
And that became really difficult for me because I'm seeing it's hard when you see your own kids and you're like, well, my own children are so blessed. It's hard to reconcile working with other people that are not as blessed as you. And that can be really difficult within your own heart to be able to, kind of, it's not guilt, but, you want to do better for others. And it can be so fresh when you're in it yourself as a parent, and
Hmm.
trying to give back and provide context of like, yes, my family is so blessed, but I don't have to be sad. I can show up and have hope in in the Lord to help me. This is not all on me to help
Hmm.
other people. And that's where boundaries, I'm really big into that book. Back when I worked in ministry myself at Highland Park Methodist Church in Dallas, we had to read a book called Boundaries at Work. And then you read boundaries in parenting and
Right.
boundaries in relationships, but
Yes.
boundaries are where it's at too. So
Yeah.
how are you able to work on boundaries for, I could imagine some of your um team that can be difficult, some of the harder stories. So how are you able to maintain boundaries within your own line of work, within this organization?
Well, I think there's healthy boundaries, and then there's also space where you want your family to work alongside of you. And so our approach more when the children were little was to bring them with us. So they went on the mission trips, and before working at Midland Fair Havens, I worked in similar types of programs in Central Texas. So the kids always came along with me, and they understood how to just be a part of it. And when right, exactly. And if you don't know any better, you just do it. And I'm grateful that they did, and they saw some hard stuff, and they learned some hard stuff. But that's um, and that's scriptural. We're actually created to love and to work. I
Meet
mean,
people where they're at. That's
yes,
so
yes,
fantastic.
and um, and through learning some natural loss and hardship,
Mhm.
that's healthy.
Absolutely.
And so our family wasn't really separated from that. We've always been a part of it, and I embrace that and I treasure it.
I admire
And
you
I
so
think,
much.
well,
Like,
you're
truly,
sweet.
that's so great. I mean, because there's not a lot of parents, this is not my day job. My day job is to teach swim lessons, right?
Uh-huh.
And I work with parents all the time. And, you sometimes you meet parents that just want to shelter their kids from the
Mhm.
reality of the world. That's how I grew up. And I think it's because being adopted, my parents really were like, you've seen it, like, we've had enough. Like, you
Mhm.
need a little bit of a break. And I grew up really naive. And then, as much as possible. I think my parents, as I got older, they would bring me into the world of like what the actual world is.
Mm.
And I think it was helpful. But sometimes I see parents that want to shelter their children so badly that, y- you know, they lose sight of what God is calling us to do,
Yes.
which is walk alongside people,
Right. And be in the
right?
world, not of
Exactly.
it, but in it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I was thinking
Mhm.
about that in my head. I was like, "What's
Oh.
that? What's that phrase?" I was like, "Thank you so
Yeah,
much."
yeah.
That's amazing. So, it kind of sounds like you guys have layers. Like you have immediate, kind of like I guess would say crisis
Hmm.
stage, and then you have, they'll graduate, and then they'll move on to the third step. What is that third step? hopefully to get women more independent. So you have the crisis stage, then you have the residential stage, and then what's the third? Is there a third
Well,
step that they can take?
so yeah, well, when they graduate, they stay in touch with us if they choose to,
Mhm.
and we'll continue to have some resources and encouragement in that manner. But the actual ministries of the program that we have is the residential,
Mhm.
and then the non-residential that I mentioned,
Okay.
which is the majority of the 700 that we serve annually. And then the third part of the program that we've introduced since COVID, really, is the parenting classes. And that came about. I was at a meeting that was, networking. We really promote collaborating with other ministries and agencies, not just in Midland, but outside, because we're all stronger together. None of us can do this alone. So we really work well with other agencies and our training. We bring it, you mentioned boundaries. We just finished our boundaries series. We had about 6 weeks of that. And we bring someone in who's an expert on boundaries to teach that to our moms. Um, and then during the week, the case manager meets with them to personalize where that might need to be. But one of the classes has been parenting. And I was at one of our networking meetings that included some CPS, Child Protective Services workers.
Mhm.
And they were mentioning at the end of COVID and post COVID how many children had been removed from their homes
Yeah.
due to neglect and abuse. And they just did not have the housing for them. We'd run out of foster homes and
Oh my
we were shipping
goodness.
kids to other states and it was just,
That's wild.
not ideal. And one of the problems was they didn't have enough parenting classes and that box needs to be checked by the courts for the
Mhm.
child to be returned to the home. And I thought, we teach parenting. That's something we
Yeah,
do already.
plug in.
We can open it up to outside of Fair Havens
Mhm.
families, intact families, not just single mom families. And so we did. And so we worked with CPS. Now we're working with MISD, with 8 other agencies in our community. And we're teaching classes not only at Midland Fair Havens, but we're teaching them on MISD campuses as needed in the classrooms. I mean,
Amazing.
yeah, I love it. The families that might need it due to truancy or
Mhm.
other identifying
Factors.
needs, right? That the counselors will say, okay, now we're going to recommend you go to these parenting classes. So we're delighted to be able to do that. We've done in some classes at other agencies as well and some
Mhm.
churches.
Great.
We've also taught them in Spanish.
Cool.
We've taught them online, taught some during the day, some in the evenings. And a while back, we taught our first sign language
Whoa,
deaf
that's
interpretation class. I
amazing.
know. I was super excited about that. When that came about, they said, we've got some families that need it in that manner. I was like, we're in it. We're on it. We'll do it. We just are so excited to be
I
able to
love the
offer that.
accessibility.
Hmm.
That's incredible. You have to meet people
Yes,
where they're at,
exactly.
you know?
So we're very excited about that. Right now, we're partnering actually with a church. We will start that in a couple of weeks, where they will offer the childcare while the parents are able to attend.
That's amazing.
So, and that's another level of a need. Sometimes they don't always need the childcare because if the child's not in the home,
Right.
obviously, but if the children are in the home, that's a big need.
Yeah.
And we want to remove that obstacle that, might prevent them from being able to attend the class.
Mhm.
So our classes on campus for our residents include parenting, of course, boundaries, um, financial literacy. We also do as needed one-on-one tutoring if the
Wow.
moms are involved in nursing classes and math, things that
Mhm.
you set out of for a few years and you're back going, oh.
Yeah.
So retired teachers will
That's
come and help
amazing.
teach, tutor and that type of thing. And then we have other groups, other agencies come in that if their expertise is in a certain particular field, then they'll teach that class for a few weeks. So we partner closely with other agencies
Wow.
we call them life skills classes. And while moms are in their life skills classes, simultaneously we have junior life skills classes for the kiddos that are in the program. So we have a whole part of our building that's just dedicated to children. And when you walk up to the door, you know it's theirs. We've
'Cause
had
it's
it
like all
painted.
colors
Yeah,
and
it's
yeah.
so fun. and welcomes them in. And so the evening is pre-planned very intentionally
Mhm.
to teach them how to make better choices as well, because most of the kids in the program have seen and heard things that
Yeah.
will affect them.
And it becomes like acceptable.
Right.
And
The norm, and it's
yeah,
not. It
it's
shouldn't be.
not.
Right.
No, it reminds me a lot of Rays of Hope
Hmm.
and how the Hospice of Midland
Hmm.
has kind of like created their program. For
Yes.
those who don't know, Rays of Hope will offer a grief support program for parents, but then also for the kids.
Hmm.
And they come every Wednesday, I think, if that's correct. And
Hmm.
they will have like simultaneously as the parents are doing community group, they will have the kids do it.
Yes.
And what people don't realize is just kind of what we are talking about over 30,000 foot view. What creates a situation for a mom to be in a single parent situation. There's
Hmm.
so many layers,
Right.
and it's so easy for us to generalize,
Hmm.
right? Because oftentimes I feel like it's human nature for us to want to put people in boxes so that we
Hmm.
understand them. But then when you actually break bread with people
Mm.
or like get to know them
Yes.
or break gingerbread with them. I'm
There
just
you go.
kidding.
With
But
lots of
like
candy.
yeah, exactly. So you start to understand that there's more to the story,
Absolutely.
But so like tell me how did the idea of Gingerbread Haven start? Because honestly, Callie Fuquay Davenport or
Yes.
Davenport Fuquay was the one who introduced me to it. I remember I think I was here for it was like my third year living in Midland. And she's like, "Yeah, like there's this really cool thing called Gingerbread Haven. You should come." And I think I went with her. It was like my third year again living here in Midland, and I was like, "This is so cool."
Good.
And
Yeah.
so,
Well,
how
that's
did?
fun.
I mean, are you like a huge fan of Christmas? And you're like, "This is what we should do," or was it one of your team members who were like, "That's a great idea for a fundraiser"? Tell me, how did it get
Well,
started?
we waited several years.
Hmm.
Like I mentioned, I was the only staff for a few years, and we brought in some more people as we
Hmm.
started to realize we needed to expand and build a building. I thought if I'm fundraising, we need more staff because we don't want to compromise any of the ministry.
Right.
So as it grew, and I just raised money through foundations and corporate and individuals and churches and
Hmm.
over those years, and we didn't have a fundraiser, so to
Right.
speak, a big fundraiser.
Hmm.
Um, I wanted to wait until there was something uniquely connected to us somehow.
Right.
We have lots of wonderful fundraisers in this community, and there's some duplicating.
I'll say it for you. There's enough clay shoots. There's enough
Uh,
golf tournaments. There's only so many golf tournaments people can go to.
right,
And they're great.
right.
But that's why everyone loves Gingerbread Haven
Well,
because it's so
it's
unique. And now
only,
our kids are like
yes.
obsessed with it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
You're very kind.
Callie's family, you see their whole family go. It's so
Generations.
neat.
Yes, it is. And that's the fun of it. Because it fits us, because we're
Hmm.
trying to strengthen families,
Hmm.
and this brings families together. So I learned about it at a friend's house in our neighborhood that several friends were there together, and the ladies that I did PTA and boosters and all that with all those years at and the schools.
Hmm.
um, we're talking about they had just been at an event that their daughters in college were helping to support. And as I listened, I thought, that sounds like a match.
Wow.
Our little logo looks like a gingerbread
It
house with
does.
families in front of it.
Yeah.
And this brings families together, and it's nothing else in our community. So we wouldn't be stepping on any toes or competing with anyone. It would be uniquely ours. And that's what
Hmm.
I was waiting for,
Hmm.
something that wouldn't compromise anyone else's efforts
I
to
feel like God does that if you're
fundraise.
patient enough,
He
you
does
know?
all the time.
Like it's
If we would
so
just wait on
wait.
him. I
But
know.
people are so impatient.
Yes, let me figure this out for you, God,
Yeah.
instead of it'll come when it's his time.
Mhm.
And that's what happens. So anyway, these dear friends are standing in this circle talking, and I said, I think this might be a match for Fairhavens. I said, if I try this, would y'all help me? And they all said yes. And most of those friends are still helping.
That's so
And
neat.
it's just precious to see this over the years. So this coming year will be our 14th year.
Wow.
And the first year started, we had it at Midland Country Club. We were doing it on a Tuesday. I sent out the invitations. by Friday, we had sold out. By
That's crazy.
Friday,
That's
I
crazy.
know. And
And now you have like 3 sessions, like, you have the kid
we
session, then
do.
you have, like, the mom session, and
And
then you
we've
have another
moved
mom
to
session.
a larger venue. And it was going to be where we needed four at our previous venue. So we moved to the larger venue, and it's just it's such a blessing, and we don't take it for granted. I'm so grateful.
Wow.
This last year, now we do online registration.
Cool.
This last year, we opened registration at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday morning. By 5 o'clock that day, we had sold out of the family event.
That's amazing.
So this year, I will say, we have more space and more tables for more guests. So don't
Amazing.
lose heart, Midland. Because
Everybody chill out.
we
We want
really
everybody to come.
want, yes, we really want as many to be able to come as possible. And so we've increased the opportunity,
Wow.
also trying to make sure it's streamlined so
Mhm.
that it moves
Truly, it's
smooth.
like the best organized thing I've ever
Oh, you're so
and I
kind.
don't mean that like lightly,
Thank
because then
you.
I mean, like, you show up to your table, you have this, gingerbread that's already, I don't know if people, I'm just pretending if somebody doesn't know, but it's not like you have to actually make the gingerbread house. It
Right.
comes pre-assembled, which I can't imagine. Like, I'm trying
That's
to think,
huge.
how do you even get pre-assembled gingerbread houses in that amount? Like, it's wild that y'all are able to do that so seamlessly. But, you show up and then you get your candy. And then what I really love about what you guys do is that you have guys. Usually it's the husbands of the women that, help volunteer, but they
Yes.
come around with extra candies so that you have, like,
Mhm.
if you're really particular about what you want your house to look like and you want it to look a certain way, they will always make sure that you have restock of whatever
Yes.
you need so that you
Yes.
don't even have to get up. And it makes it really nice because you can just hang out and it's more about fellowship when you're there.
Yes.
That's really
Yes.
cool. That's
It
awesome.
is. I had a at a Christmas gathering, a man who's worked here a long time,
Mhm.
very well respected and well known, but I won't mention the
Right.
name.
Yeah.
He came up to me with tears in his eyes and he said, "I
Hmm.
just want you to know that our sweetest family times and memories are Gingerbread
That's
Haven."
so
He
neat.
said, "Because we go there now, we have four generations,
Whoa.
and I want to thank you for doing that." He
That's
said, "I
amazing.
know we're doing it to help Midland Fair Havens." He said, "But I don't know if you realize how much you're helping Midland
That's so
and
neat.
families." And I just thought, so he's tearing up. So I'm, of course, tearing up
Yeah, of
and
course.
hugging on him and thanking him for his words of kindness because that's what it should be. It's a
Absolutely.
win win. Midland is giving to us to help
Mhm.
support this ministry. And yet we want simultaneously to give back to Midland.
Right.
And so to hear him say that, just
Just the
it's
best.
precious.
Again, if you're
Yeah.
patient, God will provide,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
That is so neat. I just want to make sure.
And
Um,
so a plug right here,
yeah,
if anyone
please.
wants to volunteer,
Are you
we
guys
have,
already planning?
oh, yes,
Oh,
we
wow.
had an old company yesterday bring several employees to, so we partnership with a lot of companies that
Uh-huh.
do volunteer time off now. VTO, it's a thing. I didn't
Wow.
realize it was a thing. So they pay their employees
Mhm.
regular time to volunteer at local agencies. And we're one of
Amazing.
the ministries that wants to partner in that. So
Wow.
they can come over and help prepare, the aprons. I mean, everything, as you have said, is well
It's a whole
prepared.
operation.
It's
It's
a
very
well
well
oiled
oiled.
machine. And we start, actually, I ordered aprons for this year, last year, ordered our gingerbread houses last
Okay,
year
can I
for
ask you a
this year.
question? It's kind of silly. Where it's not like you can go on Amazon
No,
and buy a million gingerbread houses. How do you actually find your gingerbread houses?
there is one source. There's only one
Oh
source
no.
on the planet that, and they make these for us. They're
Wow.
large and
Yeah, they're pretty big.
they're already assembled. Yes.
That's amazing.
So we're very grateful to
Yeah, don't
have
give
it.
out your resources. You don't want
Yeah.
to like.
Well, you have to order in quantity because of what they do. So they send them to us in an 18-wheeler truck. And we store them on our campus. We actually um, climate controlled a
Right.
large storage room where we can keep them so they won't get hot or cold and
Yeah.
ruined. And then the aprons, I'm searching for fabric right now for 2026.
Wow.
And they print the fabric for us in two coordinating colors in the
Mhm.
same design.
Mhm.
So you have a youth size and you have an adult
That's my
size.
favorite. My kids still have their youth one
Oh,
from a while back. That is
yes.
so cool.
Well, and people tend to save all of them. And then at Christmas, I see pictures sometimes where they're in one from each year. And
Yes.
it's just so fun. And those are made by a contact we have out of town that hand makes all those
That's
aprons for
amazing.
us. Yeah.
That's gotta
So it's
be
a big operation.
like a thousands that you have to make.
Yes, it is actually
Wow, seriously,
thousands.
if you haven't heard of Gingerbread Haven, please Google it and you'll see photos because it's
Yes,
a whole
and you can go to our
operation.
website,
Wow.
mfh.org,
Okay.
and we've posted the dates for this next
Okay, great.
year.
I need to put it on my calendar now.
Yes, and put on your calendar when to start registering,
Because we
so you can
literally,
get
our
in.
family, like just me and my husband and our kids, we will go to Miss Casey's.
Mhm.
And the last couple of years, we haven't been able to do gingerbread, but we're hoping to do it this year. But we'll go to Miss Casey's. We pick out an ornament, and like it's our
Mm.
year ornament, and it has to do with it has
Oh.
to represent what happened that year.
Oh, that's
And then
sweet.
yeah, then then we let our kids pick out they have little trees in their room, so then
Mhm.
they get to pick out an ornament, and then we'll like do something special.
Oh,
And my goal for this year is for us to be able to start gingerbread or like, buy a table
yes.
and then, have our family do it with our nieces.
Oh,
So
that's
be
sweet.
really fun.
I hope it works out.
Um,
And then the other
yeah, tell
quick
me.
plug on another opportunity to volunteer is
Uh-huh.
actually that weekend.
Okay.
We start moving everything over on a Friday for the event on Tuesday, and it takes us Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday to be
Is it
ready
gonna
for
be at the horseshoe?
Tuesday. Yes.
Okay, cool.
And then the third way to assist is through being an elf.
Yes, and that's what I was
And
talking about with I'm just trying to get terminology for you guys so you understand. Usually it's the guys that do it and it's a whole thing, but
it
but
is
sure
men.
girls can do it
Mhm.
too, right?
Well, we
Do
have
you prefer
men at
dudes?
lunch.
Okay, great.
Have men at the lunch hour. And then in the afternoon, we have teenagers.
Oh,
So,
really?
yes,
How
for the
cool.
family event, it's teenagers. And there's been some healthy competition going on between teams and
Love
coaches. Like,
that.
Midland High football will come and then Lehigh Legacy, excuse me,
Yeah.
football will come. And
Oh, I love
so that's
that.
been really
We need to
fun.
get
And
Permian involved, and then you have a real,
there you
like,
go.
Midland Odessa
There you
competition.
go. And I my husband Chris
Uh-huh.
at West Texas National Bank will bring, for example, some of his staff, and
Uh-huh.
they'll all put on their elf hats and
I love that.
just have fun. And then the staff enjoys it and the community enjoys it. When you have men out there that you might recognize from a business or where you bank, or
Mhm.
from we have city councilmen, mayors.
Yeah.
It's just been lots of fun to bring people from different walks of life all together in one fun event where you
Mhm.
can be a little goofy.
Yeah.
You put on a blinking elf hat,
It
um,
smells incredible in there
it
too.
does. And then after the elves have finished serving, then we serve them lunch.
Mhm.
So then they all go into a big room, and that's fun for
That's
them.
sweet.
Yes. So
That's
I
awesome.
can't imagine how many old deals and other things have gone
Yeah.
in on that.
Who needs nape? When you have
Right. There you
gingerbread havens.
go. Good word.
You should, like, make a T-shirt this year. No, just
There you
kidding. Who need
go.
don't why fly to Houston?
Just elf at
Eh,
Gingerbread Haven. There
yeah,
you go.
they'll be
Oh,
fine.
it's lots of fun. It
That's
really
so
is.
cool. Man, that's wonderful. Now, what I mean, I'm assuming just because of how nonprofit management works, how much help does Gingerbread Haven help you guys with operational funds? I mean, I can imagine that that's incredible
It
for
is.
you guys.
It is. It's 60% now of our budget.
60%. That's
Such a
amazing.
blessing. It really is such a blessing.
Wow.
Yes.
So with that, that financial blessing, what would you say is the biggest impact that y'all are providing for the moms that you work with? Like, what do you think is the biggest challenge that they're facing? And how are you
Mm.
guys using that generosity to help support them currently right now? Like, what do you think this year would be the biggest challenge for them? If you can even predict that, it's
The
February.
biggest challenge for the moms in our program right now,
Hmm.
um,
I'm
there's
thinking of
just so
opportunities for
many.
donations because, like, let's
Mhm.
just say, I don't know, West Texas Food Bank has got me thinking, food
Mhm.
scarcity is such a huge thing.
Right.
So, do
Well,
you have any immediate needs right now?
we do have on our website
Mhm.
a Amazon wish list
Oh, great.
if families want to do something like that. We have a lot of that type of thing happen at Christmas
Hmm.
because families are trying to show their children a way to give back.
Right.
But that's available throughout the year. Christmas, all 12 months,
Right.
to love on these families. When we have a family move in, we need new sheets, all the bedding, dishes, pots and pans, because what we do when they move out is allow them to take that with them,
Yeah,
not the
because that's
furnishings,
so
but
much
just
money to get
those basic.
established,
Hmm.
you know?
Right. And so they move into their next home and they have those basic needs. Plus, then the new family come in and get something fresh,
Right.
dishes that aren't scratched up yet.
Mhm. That can
And
help with their dignity, like protecting their dignity.
100%. And oh, it's so precious to see them walk into one of our apartments and typically just be moved to tears
Well, as a
that they
mother,
have. Yes,
all you really wanna do.
is provide for your children.
Right.
And a safe place and a community, because
Mhm.
there's a common thread amongst the moms that come to Fair Havens. They all have a desire to be in a better place emotionally, spiritually,
Mhm.
physically, financially,
That's
mentally,
amazing.
educationally. And so they may all come from different walks of life. Stories are all unique and they may never know each other's stories. It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
They're all in this together
Mhm.
and can encourage one another and feel safe.
There's something to be said about community.
So
If you're
much.
kind of in the thick of it with somebody else,
Yes.
and as a single mother, I mean, like, I
So
can't
encouraging.
imagine
Right.
because you're having to play like, my brother-in-law is a single dad, and, like, he has support from his ex-wife, but, you know, to see him do that
Right.
every day, I can't imagine, not even
Hmm.
having any support, you
Right.
know? I mean, that's
Yes.
gotta be so difficult, and I know that women, we wear multiple hats.
Hmm.
And we typically will take on the role wherever we need to be. We can be the taxi driver,
Right.
the tutor, we're the CEO of our family and the chef. And,
Yes.
we take that on very easily because I think that that's just something that we do naturally.
Hmm.
So you're really lifting the burden of some of that aspect of doing it by themselves, but just by providing community and making people feel
Right.
like they're less alone.
Yes.
Having that creates intrinsic motivation for people to continue on their, progress towards making their lives better. They
Hmm.
always say you are the sum of the five people around you. And if you're, hearing from, you said you guys have additional support externally that come, tutors that come in.
Right.
That's one influence. Then you have,
Yes.
your staff and your team that are helping. And then you may have,
Hmm.
if you just have three other mothers alongside you, you guys are in it
That's right.
together,
That's right.
you know?
Somebody that tells you every once in a while, you can do this. I
Yes.
believe in
And
you
I've done this
and you are
before.
worthy.
And here's what you
Yes.
can do.
God created you for,
A reason.
yeah, more than
Truly.
what you've been. And so,
Exactly.
yeah,
That's so
it's
cool.
huge. It is so huge just to have someone believe in you. We all
Hmm.
need that.
And we oftentimes take for granted if we were raised in a family that actually had that level of support.
Right.
And then, I know for me, I've been very blessed to be able to I kind of had to grow up really early because I was acutely aware of my own situation and being
Mhm.
adopted. Inherently, you kind of learn, okay, there's a reason why I'm adopted.
Mhm.
But sometimes I look at my friends and I'm like, you really have no idea how much, you really have. And I think it's important for Midlanders to really educate themselves on what you guys do at Midland Fair Havens so that not only does it produce empathy, but it also provides information on systematic poverty so
Mhm.
that we can better help either with our time or our resources so that we
Yes.
can support our families.
Yes.
Because what better way to support family values than to actually help solve the problem?
Well, and that's one of the things I see in Midland. Midland
Problem,
is,
sorry, but you know what I mean?
yes,
Challenges?
Midland, one of the identifying factors I think of Midland, and I've lived in several places overseas and in the States.
Uh-huh.
One thing that I really respect about Midland is the number of people that want to be a part of a solution.
We're very solution minded.
Very.
Like that, I feel like that's the
Hmm.
identity of our community.
And I think as individuals, I mean, we all need to realize sooner than later in life, sooner we realize this, the better off we are, that we all have the freedom to choose.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Everybody has a story, everybody has challenges, everybody has some darkness.
Yes.
And for the most part, others will never know
Hmm.
what each of our individual challenges or darkness has been.
Hmm.
And we all have the freedom to choose what to do with that.
Hmm. Exactly. 100%.
And that's so missing in so many layers of ways in our culture,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
And it's one thing to allow that to consume you. It's another thing to look at others who might be struggling
Hmm.
and actually helping them instead
Hmm.
of just saying, that's not my problem,
Right.
because that's not my community.
Yes.
I personally believe like my ethos is we have like a little saying that I try to talk about with my kids is it's very rooted into what I think our family identity is, just with me and my husband and my kids, is if you're not serving someone, we have a huge problem.
Hmm.
In some capacity. Can you serve your sister today? Can you serve your mother and father? Like in
Hmm.
just the act of servitude really does help you
It
understand
does
other people around you,
very much.
and I think it's really important for children. Like you said, you guys were really integrating your children into the mission field at such a young age because if you can't serve others, then you're really just being selfish.
Very.
And it doesn't have to be a huge act of servitude. You
Hmm.
could just easily maybe help your sister pick up her toys
Right.
because she's younger.
Right.
Or like, can you go put this dish away? That's
Hmm.
one way that little kids can be involved,
Right.
but on a larger scale as adults, we have, I personally believe, a personal responsibility to give back to our community and
Hmm.
especially to the most vulnerable populations within our community, which is women
Yes.
and children.
Yes. Well, we create a culture in our homes.
Mhm.
We create a culture in our workplace,
Mhm.
um, that begins to develop who people are
Mhm.
and the relationships that develop within that culture.
Right.
And again, we're all a part of that.
Right.
None of us are isolated from that. We're all
Mhm.
a part of whether that culture is working towards good,
Mhm.
working towards
Or
ourselves,
self-serving.
working towards others.
Mhm.
And the sooner again that we realize that, the more joy
I
we
agree.
can have.
Takes the pressure off. If you're serving
It
others, life
does.
gets easier. I don't know.
So
One of my
true.
friends is Mormon, and she always tells me Mormons are really great about serving others. But one of the
Mm.
things that she said her ward talks about is whenever they're anxious or whenever like someone in their ward is anxious, they always say, okay, what can you do to get out of that feeling? And kind of like redirect really
Mhm.
is to serve others,
Yes.
even the smallest things. Take out the trash
Mhm.
for your elderly member, your
Mhm.
community.
Mhm.
You tend to focus, it's self, I feel like anxiety sometimes can be self serving, you know? And I've
Yes.
struggled with it my whole life, but the more I am able to give to,
Mhm.
community members, the less that feeling exists.
Mhm.
So, anyway,
That's
um
so true.
yeah. What gives you hope for, just to wrap up, what gives you hope for the future of Midland? What do you think?
I think we've kind of touched on it, the fact that there is a number of people here that are looking outward,
Mhm.
how to grow, how to better, how to resolve things, how to solve things. Um, I enjoy the freshness that's here. I think there's always um, an element of inspiration of what can we do next? How can we
Mhm.
do this better? Um, there's always opportunities. I differ, I guess, from people who feel like we're way out here in the West and there's nothing to do. I'm like, no, we're not.
I know.
We're way out in the West and we can decide
Mhm.
um, what this is going to look like in our community
Exactly.
and be a part of something that is really special and unique. And it is a very unique community.
It really
And
is.
I find diversity because I want to.
Mhm.
Um,
You can choose to live in isolation or you can choose not to be.
exactly. Well said. And of course, the work I'm in, we have lots of diversity in layers of ways,
Mhm.
and not just the way you think of, but
Right. Right.
people come from all walks of life.
Mhm.
And I just embrace what God has given us here. I think we're accountable for that,
Mhm.
and we shouldn't take it for granted and
Mhm.
not be selfish with it, but really give back to our community and
Yeah.
to others around us because Midland has a lot to offer, and
Really. It
clearly it
does.
has. When you
Yes.
look over the years of what has come from Midland, I think
Right.
you have a lot of strong, hardworking people, a lot of do-it-yourselfers, and there's a lot to be said
And it's not
for
just
that.
oil and gas.
Oh no,
I think people just think, Chevron and
Mm,
Conoco, and that's all they think was out here. And
mm-mm.
truly, there's so many ripple effects of community here
Agreed.
within our community.
Agreed.
Well, you're just
Yes.
amazing. I just really,
You
truly
are.
enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you for doing what you
Anytime,
do to help
anytime.
educate people.
You're very sweet.
I
This is more
appreciate
of a
you.
labor of love, but
I can see that.
I truly appreciate the opportunity that Midland's given to me, that I feel like, I don't know, everything in my life, I've tried to be obedient to what's been called. And sometimes it
Mhm.
probably looks on paper like, if you look at my resume, it's like all over the place, but I'm just trying to be obedient. And I hope that it brings some joy to others. But thank you so much for being
Does.
here.
Well, thank you for having me and living in your moment. I can see you do
Thanks.
that.
Thanks so much.
Mhm.
Well, guys, be sure to check out Midland Fair Havens at mfh.org.
Yes.
And you can get into contact with them to volunteer for Gingerbread Haven. And if you need support from Gingerbread or from Midland Fair Havens, be sure to reach out to them as well. Thanks so
Please do.
much. Bye.
Yes.